Hey guys, thanks for joining us for this 90th episode in Season 2 of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. Special guests on this episode include Greg Hess and Holly Laurent, going to be talking about the podcast Mega, which is available everywhere. We'll also talk with rock historian and podcast host Jon Weiderhorn. We'll talk about his podcast Backstaged, The Devile In Metal. We'll also talk with professional skier and base jumper Matthias Giraud about his movie Super Frenchie. And we'll visit with the 2016 winner of the Voice Sundance Head. We'll talk about some upcoming shows and the challenges he faced during the pandemic. Of course, if you would, please take the time to subscribe, drop a like, comment, leave some feedback, check out the shop, and of course share with your friends. Now, your teenager who spends 40 hours a week in their Xbox will love this idea, but the internet still split on whether it's smart or not. A mommy blogger named Destiny Ann is going viral after she got on TikTok, said she doesn't pay her daughter for chores. Now instead, she pays for how much time she puts into her hobbies and things she's passionate about, like gymnastics. She says she wants her kids to feel like their hobbies are their job, and she wants them to associate money with stuff they enjoy doing, not stuff they hate. So when they're older, they won't go after jobs they hate just because they play well. We love talking podcast, and one of the best out there, Mega. And from that, we've got Greg Hess and Holly Laurent. She likes the way I say it that way. So Greg and Holly, first off, thanks so much for taking the time.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
So excited to be here. Thanks.
Now tell us, Greg, I'll let you lead us in here. Where did the idea of Mega come up, and give our listeners just a little insight into the devilish satire, if you will?
Well, as some folks might know, Mega is a completely improvised satire that takes place inside a fictional mega church called Twin Hills Church that's located, in our minds, in Broad Ripple, Indiana. And the idea for the show, actually, it was Holly's brainchild. She grew up with pastors in her family, and actually at one time worked at a mega church. And so she had the idea to set it in a church, and then I just got to tag along on her great idea.
I've always told Greg that I'm bilingual. I speak English and I speak evangelical, and he was like, "You got to do something with that." And my dad is still currently a pastor of a mega church, so it's a very loving send-up.
Now, Holly, for you, was it a little scary first putting it out there? I know as a preacher's kid, you've got to be kind of scared and nervous about what the family and the congregation thinks, right?
Yeah, a little bit, but we come from the Chicago improv comedy tradition of not only playing to the top of your intelligence, but also if you want to create commentary and do a layered satire that actually has messaging inside of it, the best way to get your point across is to actually be the thing you have a comment about, and to be it with great integrity, I guess. And so I'm able to be inside that point of view so deeply because it's just been such a big part of my history. So I'm really playing the point of view of a deeply devoted person. There's like not a lot of winking that we do with our characters. We're playing like deeply sincere, almost like a Christopher Guest show where the people so deeply believe and are deeply committed that it's funny because we have a lot of ex-evangelical listeners, but we have a lot of church people. We have like pastors who listen, and people say like, "Oh, our small group listens to Mega together." Like, okay, we're hitting both sides of the spectrum.
That's cool. Now, Greg, to be a part and to say that you've been a part of the second city there in Chicago, what does that mean to you? And was that kind of where your goals were coming up as well?
Yeah, it really was. You know, Holly and I met at Second City, and we both toured there, and Holly was on the main stage there. And yeah, to be honest, when I moved to Chicago, I had one goal, and that was to be on the touring company of Second City, which now in retrospect, I guess I could have set my goals a little bit loftier, because after I got that job, I think I found out that you made like $75 a show and could, barely pay my electric bill. But it was definitely a fun time, and we had so many great memories while we were there, for sure.
Now, Holly, for you, what have been the biggest challenges since no touring and all that this last year, technology-wise, keeping the podcast rolling? Has there been anything extra new that you've had to pick up?
It's been a really a crash course in podcasting, and I feel like I've gotten a great education. And, you know, we had to set up a home studio and figure out how to have guests on every single episode remotely, and to be doing it over Zoom, like everybody's been doing everything for the past year and change. But if anything, it's been kind of empowering, because now I feel like I know what I'm doing, and it's a great show, and it's kind of kept us alive, honestly, in the podcast, because it has itched that improv scratch. It has let us continue to perform every week and to connect with people. We have a guest on every single show who plays a member of the church staff or community. It's a comic who comes on and improvises with us and plays a character from the community. And so it has kept us, talking and connecting with great people. And
it's also been a hard thing probably the hardest thing about it for me has been seeing the inside of people's apartments during the pandemic, just when you're on a Zoom call with them. But the comedy has been really fun.
That's good. Now, Greg, I want to make sure and let our listeners know where they can find more info on Mega, not only the podcast, but everything social media wise going along as well.
That's great. Yeah, probably the biggest thing coming up is we actually have a show coming up that's a live stream. It's on RushTix.com, and if you go to RushTix.com, it's this Sunday, the 6th at 5 Pacific, and we'll actually be on camera improvising with special guests. So RushTix.com is a great place for a live show ticket, live stream ticket, and then at Mega the Podcast is our social media handle, and Mega the Podcast, anywhere podcasts can be downloaded or found or sought, that is where we are. So iTunes and all the rest of it.
There you go. Well, Greg and Holly, it has truly been a privilege to have the chance to visit with you guys. Continued success on the podcast, and hopefully we can catch up again real soon.
It was lovely talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, in your opinion, which state totally stinks? And I mean that literally. I mean, which one smells the worst? Well, someone ranked all 50 states by looking at 4 different categories of stink. Now, they factored in how dirty the air is, how many landfills there are, dental health as a measure of bad breath, and population density to estimate how much BO you have to deal with. And here are the 10 smelliest states in America. Number 1, Maryland. Number 2, California. Number 3, Florida. Number 4, Delaware. Number 5, Massachusetts. Number 6, Alabama. Number 7, New Jersey. Number 8, New York. Number 9, Pennsylvania. And number 10, Mississippi. North and South Dakota tied for the most pleasant smelling states, followed by Wyoming, Idaho, and Wisconsin. Great podcast to talk about, Backstaged, the Devil in Metal. And who better to talk about that than rock journalist and host Jon Weiderhorn. And first off, Jon, appreciate you taking some time to talk about it this morning.
I'm happy to do it.
Now, Jon, tell us where the idea of the Devil in Metal Backstage, where that whole idea first came from, and what it's like to get the feedback from the lovers of rock and metal, if you will.
Well, I did a book called Raising Hell, Backstage Tales from the Lives of Metal Legends. And in that, we attacked all of the different ideas and, I hate to use the word tropes, but the aspects of metal that fans and people who live the lifestyle and are delved into the culture, explore. And those being alcohol. I took a tongue-in-cheek approach. So, there's alcohol, there's Satanism, there's drugs, there's throwing up, there's falling off, injuring yourself on stage. There's a chapter called The Highway to Hell, which is about crazy things that happen on the road. So my book company came to me and said, hey, we think this would work really well with a podcast, and we're putting podcasts together. Is that something you'd be into? I said, yeah, absolutely. But we both agreed that it should have a different approach, not just a bunch of crazy quotes thrown at you in an oral history style, the way the book was. Although it's a fun read in that respect, in that you just bombarded with one wild story after another. So I love true crime podcasts and other podcasts that really tell a story. So I wanted to approach this as a narrative podcast where I would tell the story of a particular topic, be it the presence of the occult in metal, and whether bands were serious about the occult or whether it was something that they were just flirting with because it was something to dabble in, or whether it was just for shock value and image presentation. So, that one episode's about that. I wanted to do an episode about Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath and what he brought to metal music and how his guitar style was really defined by an industrial accident that cut off the tips of two of his fingers. So instead of taking your typical approach towards a band, I tried to look at these subjects from a slightly different angle. The episode after our upcoming Heroin two-parter is actually a two-parter on Rob Halford and Judas Priest. And I've talked to Rob numerous times. The episode spans the interviews I've done over the history of the band, but focus is really on Rob and his struggle as he presented in his book Confess with being a gay man in the 80s when metal was all about testosterone and virility, and he was in the closet and he was miserable as he was becoming the hugest rock star in the genre.
What do you think is maybe one of the biggest misconceptions that the fans have of metal music, maybe of the artists themselves or the bands that behind the scenes? And I think that's probably part of bringing this out to life, right?
Yeah, well, there's a general misconception. I think real fans have a pretty good idea of what it's all about. Those who aren't fans of music definitely have misconception. And there are two big ones, that it all sounds the same and that these guys are all lunkhead, knuckle-dragging idiots. And it couldn't be further from the truth. And I love the quote from Gary Holtz from Exodus and Slayer. And it's in the first episode where we talk about, that particular idea that everyone's a Satanist and everyone's an idiot. And he's like, you know what? The people in metal, most of the people I've talked to are readers. And they actually are reading books. And maybe it's Stephen King and maybe it's H.P. Lovecraft, but at least they're getting some substance. And he says maybe they're not necessarily reading Jane Austen, although I really like Jane Austen. Which I thought to hear from Gary Holt, who's like the evil man of metal, was awesome. And these guys have a sense of humor, They are dead serious about their music, but off stage, they like to party, they like to laugh. They, most of them have a good time. And there are some who are tortured and who make this music out of sheer aggression and maybe dysfunction, and that comes across in the power of music. But there's a lot of room in metal for fun.
Now, for you, Jon, how long did it take you doing the interviews in your career before you actually felt comfortable in the room with some of the metal rock gods, if you will, of the industry?
Oh my God! Well, I went to journalism school, fortunately. Communications school at Boston University. So I was somewhat schooled in the art of interviewing and writing stories. Then worked for the school paper. Then did an internship in England at a prestigious, at the time, music magazine called Melody Maker. So I dipped my feet in and I started talking to musicians and bands. I had friends in bands and I messed around a little bit, in bands, not anything on a serious club playing level or anything. But, when it came to interviewing the huge rock stars, like when I flew to San Francisco to interview Metallica for Guitar World 20 years ago or 25 years ago, they were the first thrash band that I just lost my head over. And I really had to calm myself down on the plane. I'm like, okay, this is Metallica. But I'd done so many interviews, I'm like, it's just another interview. And when you realize these are people and, they come from, a lot of them, humble backgrounds. They didn't start out as stars. So, a lot of them are really friendly and understanding and accommodating. And if you know your stuff, if you know what you're talking about, they take you seriously.
That's right. And again, the podcast, Backstaged, the Devil in Metal. Jon, I want to make sure and let folks know where they can find more about the podcast, also about your writings and everything you got going social media-wise as well.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, well, I've got 5 books that are out at the moment. My first was kind of my really big jump into the void. That was Louder Than Hell, and I did that with a writer named Catherine Turman, who's a friend of mine. And it's still, she's Alice Cooper's radio producer too. And it's still doing well. It's still getting a lot of attention. And from there, I jumped off into doing biographies or autobiographies. I didn't want to write just the story of a band without actually doing it officially. So I worked with Scott Ian from Anthrax, and he and I did his autobiography, I'm the Man, and Al Jurgensen from Ministry, which was just a trip in many, many ways. A hysterical guy, and full of wild stories of debauchery and sheer abandon. And that one's called Ministry, The Lost Gospels According to Al Jurgensen. I also worked with Roger Moret from Agnostic Front on his book, Agnostic Front, Grit, Guts, and Glory. And then the latest book, Raising Hell, Backstage Tales from the Lives of Metal Legends for Diversion, who then hooked me up with this podcast. So, I'm on the social media outlets. My Twitter handle is Louder Than Hell, but it's also Jon Weiderhorn. And then Jon Weiderhorn for Facebook. And there's I believe it's Backstaged. I think it's just Backstage the Devil in Metal. They were going to call it Backstage Podcasts for a while, but you can look for both. It's there. Google it. Happy to answer any questions or read any criticisms. Hate mails, welcome. Fan mails, loved. It's good to talk about this stuff. And metal fans are, power to you. Double horns up, because it's a great thing to be a part of.
That's right. And you need a little of that hate mail to build that angst back up. Isn't that right, Jon?
Maybe a little bit.
Well, Jon, there you go. It's been great to visit with you this morning, brother. I appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule. Have a great rest of your week, and let's catch up again real soon.
Thanks so much, Cameron. Same to you.
Now, the name Karen comes with a stigma now that it's used as a derogatory term. And all the bad press might be driving Karens to extinction. New data from the Social Security Administration shows the name Karen is less popular now than it's been in almost a century. Only 325 babies named Karen were born in the U.S. last year, making it the 831st most popular name for a girl. The last time it ranked that low was 94 years ago in 1927. It peaked in popularity in 1965 when it was the 3rd most popular name for a girl. America got almost 33,000 new Karens that year, so a lot of Karens are in their late 50s right now. Now, the name has been falling in popularity for a while, though, even before the whole Karen thing started. In 2000, it was the 153rd most popular name. A decade later, it had fallen to 248. And now, it's at 831, so it could drop out of the top 1,000 very soon. Excited to talk about Super Frenchie. We've got Matthias Giraud on with the line with us. And first off, Matthias, appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule.
Oh, thanks for taking time to connect. It's a pleasure.
Now tell us, the professional skier and base jumper. Obviously, with both of those before your name, you live a life of craziness, I guess is how I would say that. Tell us, where did the idea for Super Frenchie come about, and were you maybe shocked leading up to it?
Well, the idea for the movie was born in 2008. I did my first ski base jump on Mount Hood in Oregon, and it ended up being a first on Mount Hood ever. So it was kind of like a historical jump. So I'm going and doing a bunch of interviews for TV shows. I ended up on Good Morning America and CNN and all that. And then I did an interview for a local ABC affiliate in Washington, in Spokane, Washington. And one of the guys working there approached me, and he was like, "Hey man, this is really cool, and I think this could make a cool story, and why don't we work on a movie together? And, I think we're both naive and 24 years old and being like, yeah, sure, let's go. So I agreed to do this. And then, it only took 11 years to make a whole movie.
Now tell us about the process of the movie, and especially having something out there of excitement in the midst of the pandemic when so much excitement has had to cease, if you will.
Well, I'm excited. I'm really excited to share that movie, especially at the time like right now, right? Because we've all been cooped up and haven't been able to really achieve what we're trying to achieve or cross things off our bucket list, if I may say, right? But I think this movie comes at a time of excitement because we all starting to get out of our house and travel and be able to explore the world again. And I hope it's a movie that will inspire people to make it happen and live intentionally,
now, Matthias, living the life and the craziness that you partake in, I mean, what kind of things are left on the bucket list, or are you starting a second page, if you will?
Well, it's the problem when you cross things off your bucket list, you keep adding items to it.
Right.
So I have a thorough list of mountains that I'm trying to ski, or first ski base jumps I'm trying to do pretty much almost all over the world. I have a lot that I'm trying to do in the Alps, South America, all the way to Pakistan and the Himalayas. So I think it's hard to put a date on when this is gonna stop or whatever. I think it's more like a dedication and a story of a vocational story in the end, and I have many things, but that movie in particular, you were talking about chapters and turning a page, it really shows my growth, since childhood and being a professional athlete all the way to starting to be a professional athlete all the way until pretty much now. And now towards the end of the movie, roughly, I'm starting to really mix alpinism with steep skiing and base jumping all at once, all together. And so now it's this milestone is opening so many other routes and projects that I'm trying to accomplish in the mountains. So now it's great because it's the journey through the mountains feels like it's not going to end anytime soon because there's so many things to do.
Now, what is it about alpinism and being in the mountains that inspires you to keep chasing your dream?
Well, I think it goes all the way back to my childhood. I learned to ski in the Alps when I was 18 months old, right in front of Mont Blanc, the highest peak in Western Europe. And when you grow up over there, it's several things happen. A lot of mountain legends go there or are from there because it's kind of like what Hawaii is to surfing. That's what the Alps are to mountain sports, right? This is where a lot of sports were invented or being pushed or still being invented. And so you're super inspired by this environment, but you still, you learn to respect the mountains and love them at the same time. So that's what triggers pretty much an existential quest. And so that's I can't remember where I was going to go with this, but this is pretty much it.
Now, as we all dealt with 2020, how did that change maybe your goal setting going through 2021 and even 2022 and beyond?
Well, that's an interesting question because, to use surfing as an analogy again, and I use that often because I'm an avid surfer. I'm not a professional surfer, but big wave surfers, for example, what I do is kind of like the big wave surfing of skiing, where you ski things that are almost too big to survive, right? And that's why you have to have a parachute. A lot of big wave surfers, a lot of them use jet skis to get towed into waves that are too big to even paddle into. But to be able to get those big waves, the surfers train all year round for that short period of time every year when the waves are going to be the biggest. Well, for me, it's the same. So I train all year round for that one real big period in the year when I can climb very, very high and to go and jump up very, very tall things and ski very challenging stuff. And so when COVID hit last year, it was right when I was going to go to the Alps. So I had to cancel all my plans. And so instantly the way I approached it, so much uncertainty, but I looked at it as instead of being a 1 year training period, this is going to be a 2 year training period. So I'm actually flying back to the Alps a week from today to go and get hopefully more stuff done if the weather lines up. But I'm ready. I've been training for 2 years and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, an extra long training period. Yeah, it's going to have great results. Matthias, I look forward to hearing about that as well. And Matthias, I want to make sure and let our listeners know if they want to find more information, not only on Super Frenchie, but everything you've got going social media wise as well, my friend.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So my Instagram is @SuperFrenchieOfficial. And for the movie, it's pretty easy. It's Super Frenchie movie on Super Frenchie movie on Instagram. But then if you go on superfrenchiemovie.com, you can access all the platforms where you can watch the movie. We have a limited theatrical run. So go on superfrenchiemovie.com, click on get tickets to find if there's a theater near you playing it. But if you want to watch it from the comfort of your home, just click on watch at home and you'll see all the platforms where you can watch the movie.
Well, there you go. Well, Matthias, it has been great to visit with you today, sir. I appreciate you taking some time and I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, Cameron. Same to you.
Now, have you ever been involved in a fight due to a board game? 1 in 5 Americans say that they've banned a specific board game from their home because things get too heated. And the game that causes the most fights, not surprisingly, is Monopoly. Now, the 5 most frequently banned games are Monopoly, Uno, Sorry, Scrabble, and Jenga. Now, here are a few more stats from a new survey on game night competitiveness. Number 1 in 9 people say that they've seen a physical fight break out over a game before. Number 2, the most common things that cause board game fights are someone quitting because they're losing and accusing someone else of cheating. Number 3, 22% of us have banned or stopped inviting a specific person to game night. Number 4, just over 1 in 8 people admit that they are usually the one who causes the drama. Number 5, 75% of people said they like game nights in general, but 41% specifically said they really enjoy winning. Now, the poll also found that the most popular game categories are board games, card games, dice games like Yahtzee, and party games like charades. Looking forward to June 26th, headlining the American Spirit Festival. We've got Sundance Head on the line with us. And first off, Sundance, great to visit with you, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on your program.
Now tell us what it's like to see things opening up as an artist after so much time that you probably were counting the moments, weren't you, as time was passing?
Yes, it was really incredible. I never imagined that they would close bars, music venues, churches, things of that nature. You think no matter what's going on in the worst of times, those places are going to be there, you know. And I just can't believe it. It was something that I was unprepared for. I know a lot of people were. So
now, did you find inspiration writing wise in the time, or did you have to take a little bit of time to maybe regroup your emotions, if you will?
Well, at first I didn't realize what was going on. They said 2 weeks, and then it turned to be, like over a year. So at first I didn't understand it, and then I became really depressed, and then financially stressed out, and then once I started to realize what was going on, I did write some songs, but really, it was a very unenjoyable time for me, as I'm sure it was for most people. But I went from being on the road for over 250 days a year to being home, and then I'm home with everybody. The kids were home, and so we really spent a lot of time together, and that's the one part I enjoy about it. But as far as writing music, I was more concerned on about how I was going to, pay my finances with no money coming in.
Now, what's the biggest thing you had to learn to kind of adjust the way you saw things over the last year?
Well, the hardest part was that the mailbox kept getting full, and and we were, nobody was working. So, and then I lost my dad during COVID, not from COVID, but natural causes, and he was he was fixing to be 80 years old, so I had to deal with that alongside of everything else. So there's been a lot of things that I've had to figure out between 2021 and 2020. But those are just, those are challenges that the Lord gives you, and if you have faith in Him, then you just do your best and let Him work it out for you. That's what we've been trying to do. So far, it's been a good experience for me.
Now, Sundance, as you got the opportunity to get back up on stage, what was it like the first night? Were there jitters, kind of like the first time around?
Man, I still have them. I'm unsure if I'm unsure if I know the words. Just being in front of people is kind of it's like having to go through that anxiety all over again, but learning how to become comfortable in front of people. And so it's a strange thing having to reflect on yourself again. And it's kind of like, it's kind of like being a new artist, really. I'm sure it's the same way for everybody. Before COVID, man, we were like lights out. We played 90 minutes and we'd never stop to take a breath, And now we get to about 115 minutes. I'm like, how much longer? And I'm like, no way. I got to get out of here right now.
Who has been the biggest inspiration in this time? Like you said, you've gone through the highs and the lows, and obviously there's folks in your corner. And who's been the one that you've been leaning on the most?
Well, my dad was helping me out a lot, before he passed, and my wife, she's probably been the strongest person around me. So
that's good.
She's been keeping it together.
Now, what's it like working the Texas circuit, if you will, and the opportunities that's given you to find a new group of listeners? And man alive, you got a huge loyal base in that Texas regional group as well.
Well, it's really exciting because this Texas music scene down here, you can really make a living and never leave the state once you get in that pocket, And it's cool to become part of that family because they really do care about each other, try to help each other out. It's a little bit different than some of the other music scenes where they try to kill you and stab you in the back at every chance they get, And I've seen both of them, so.
Now, how much has your view of the music industry changed since you left with the high point of the champion of the Voice to today? I mean, how much different are the spectacles, if you will?
Well, I realize how naive I was really about certain things. I really believed that if you were talented, you were a good performer, you could sing really well, and you could write great songs, then that could make you successful. But I realize now that that's probably the smallest percentage of what it takes to become a breakout artist. It's so many other things. You got to be in the right place at the right time, know the right people, do the right things. Politically, you have to align yourself, and there's a huge game that goes on behind the scenes that I was unaware of. I was that guy that was always, I was playing 200 shows in a bar going, one of these days somebody's going to see us and go, you guys are badass. And then we'll go from there, but it just doesn't happen like that anymore.
That's right. Now, again, the American Spirit Festival is coming up on June 26th at Hoyt Shaded Park in Altus, and Justin Larkin opening the night and Sundance leading us right up to the fireworks. And I mean, how hard is it going to be for you to keep the energy up and keep that energy level leading into those fireworks as well?
Oh, we're ready, man. We're pumped up. We love that town. We've been through there. We did a Air Force tour and came through Altus, so I know all about it. It's a great little place.
That's good stuff. Now, Sundance, if folks want to find more information about the music, the upcoming tour dates, and everything else you got going social media wise, where's the best place to keep up, brother?
Well, we're on all the platforms. You just look up Sundance Head with a blue check, and that's it, man. Connect with us. We'd love you to be part of the music family. I do 100% of the social networking myself right now since we cut a lot of things back during COVID, and I actually enjoy it more. I love to interact with people online, so shoot me a message. We'll hook up.
There you go. Well, mark your calendars. June 26th, he'll be here in Altus and Sundance. Great to catch up with you, brother, and looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the interview. Y'all have a good day.
Well, thanks again for joining us for this 90th episode in Season 2 of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. If you ever have a comment, question, anything else you'd like to know, you can hit me up on the contact page at gqwithcam.com. You can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, all at GQWithCam. If you'd like to help out in the funding for this podcast, visit our merch store where we've got hoodies, mugs, tumblers, shirts, stickers, and more. That's gqwithcam.com/shop. If you have a special guest idea, email me, gqwithcam@gmail.com. Well, thanks again to our good friend Brandon Allen for coming up with our theme music. We're going to let him play us out and hope you guys have a great rest of your Thursday.